Welcome to the AFN Sports Arena with Jancy and Tori. I'm Jancy Ellis, joined in the AFN Okinawa studio by Air Force Staff Sergeant Tori Cusimano.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's scary.
That's pretty bad. At least it's just one of them this time. Normally it's a crowd. It's Halloween season.
Yeah, and you never know what riffraff are gonna, waltz into the studio.
Security's not very tight.
Yeah. How you feeling today, Tori?
I'm feeling pretty good. Got some good sleep last night.
Good.
Big things happening in the sports. Good time to be a sports fan right now.
It definitely is. Well, it's pretty yucky out there today.
Boo.
Apparently, we may be getting sideswiped by another typhoon this weekend. They only come on the weekends.
Boo. I know. That's like a mandate for all typhoons that
know.
they have to arrive on a weekend. And on a weekend when so many big things were planned.
I know. On my days off, I'll host groups of students from mainland Japan, and this weather always makes it much more difficult because we can't go to the beach or do those fun things. But yesterday, I actually had a group of 5 boys, and of course, they knew Yu Darvish, and we talked a little about the Dodgers and the NLCS.
Hey.
So that was fun.
Yeah,
Found
that's
a little
cool.
common ground.
Yeah.
But before we dive into anything else, we have an update for you guys on who will be playing in the Far East Division 1 Championship.
Ooh.
Yes.
Wait, hold on. I knew I had one for this. I
Yes,
knew
you
it.
did. Well, it's not that big of a surprise, but it was announced Monday that Niles C. Kinnick will host the Kadena Panthers the weekend of October 27th to 28th, so that's next weekend. Now, Kadena and American School in Japan were actually tied for that second spot, and they split their pair of games this season, each one time. So in this instance, they deferred to the point differential, and Kadena topped ASIJ 55-40. So there you have it.
That's got to be hard for those ASIJ kids. When it goes that deep into the rule book of like, here's how we decide, you kind of feel like there's unfinished business left on the field. But for Kadena, it shouldn't have even come to this.
Exactly. They shouldn't have been in that position, dropping 2 games.
Right.
And everybody, kind of expected. And Kadena's had some bumps along the road, some issues off the field, too, that have kind of shaken things up. But they're there. It's announced. It's happening. And don't forget that Kinnick handed Kadena that crushing 45-40 defeat a couple weeks ago. And you've got to think that going into this championship, especially being back at Kinnick for the championship, it's still pretty fresh in their mind.
Yeah, these teams play each other a lot out here in the Pacific. And obviously, Kadena's biggest rival is and will always be Kubasaki.
Yes.
But
not much of a competition this year. But
Kinnick is on the up and up. And I'm sure Kadena, who is a perennially very good program, didn't appreciate going into Kinnick and getting kind of walloped like that, or not necessarily walloped.
Yeah, it was close. It was a shootout, and when it is that close, it's almost a little harder to swallow.
Yeah, for sure. It's heartbreaking because it's a roller coaster of emotions, and you're kind of hoping, and then you take the lead, they take the lead.
Especially since that determined where the championship would be played. If Kadena would have won, they would have hosted the
I'm very sad because now that means we can't watch it live. And we would have called it live on AFN.
I know, it would have been awesome.
It would have been awesome, but nevertheless,
not meant to be.
Happy that they're in the championship, and we wish them the best of luck. We'll be supporting them from afar, right?
Yes, and as you probably remember, Kadena lost the championship last year on the road to ASIJ, so they haven't had much luck with these championships on the road in recent years. What do you think Kadena needs to do to overcome this and bring another D1 championship home to Okinawa?
I think they just need to play their best game and worry about the things that they can control. Just like we kind of talked about last week, I think Coach Mendoza's going to have them in the right space mentally for this game. And there comes there's an extra gear you kind of have to reach as a player sometimes when you kind of get that feeling of over my dead body.
Yeah,
exactly. You just get this extra motivation where it's I'm going to make this happen. We lost on the road last year. For a lot of these kids, it's the last organized football game they'll ever play. Yeah. So the motivation is going to be there.
And I think for quarterback Cody Seago, he's a senior. Yeah. This is the last season. It doesn't get much bigger than this for him. And so I am personally hoping to see some big numbers from him. If anything, he will put that team on his back and carry him through. So
much drama, so much on the line. God, I'm pissed that it's not here.
I know. It'll be good, though. We'll keep you updated. And, of course, next week we'll go a little bit more in depth as it gets closer. But one thing is for sure, it's going to be a very interesting game.
Right you are, Jancy.
And speaking of interesting games, what the heck was with all of the college football upsets this weekend?
I don't know, but that's what these fans are sounding like, man. I don't know.
Holy cow. It seemed like it was one shocking outcome after another. So I looked up if it was really that bad or if it just seemed so in my world. Listen to this. 4 AP top 10 teams and 5 unbeaten teams lost this week, and 7 ranked teams lost to unranked teams. That was just one shy of the most in a single week in AP poll history since 1936.
That's why they play the game, Jancy. If they want to sit around and rank teams all year, then, we can just play the championship game now. But I love it. I love when this stuff happens.
I love it too. And, there are always a few upsets, but this week, obviously, it was monumental. Of course, the most shocking was number 2 Clemson, who fell to Syracuse 27-24. Which everyone, including me, wrote off as another conference win.
Yeah, well, you have a habit of writing games off, don't you, Jancy?
Talk about that.
No, but I watched a little bit of this game, and I saw when the quarterback went down on a kind of a body slam tackle. Clean tackle, I mean, not the...
A good hard sack. He was knocked out cold.
Exactly. There was nothing, and he was he's just laying there unconscious on the field, which was very scary. Glad he's okay.
And he had rolled his ankle the previous week going into this, which the coach kind of played down and everything, and it didn't look that bad on film, but you could tell he wasn't at full speed.
Well, here's the deal with Clemson is football is a team sport. The quarterback position is very important. Pretty sure their backup was capable, if nothing else. But as a team, Clemson still should have beat a Syracuse team that is not anything to anyone. It's not a football school.
The raw talent matchups are ridiculously uneven, but a lot went right for the Orange. Mainly, they just won those individual matchups, and they played good, sound football. And that is one of the things with being at the top of the rankings, the top of the conference.
Oh, yeah.
You will get teams' best game.
You got a target on your back. Just like we talked about before with that feeling of over my dead body.
Yeah.
Teams get amped to play you. And Syracuse played a great game. I mean, credit them. I know I'm talking trash like they're garbage, and they are, but they played a wonderful game against Clemson.
And so that wasn't, it wasn't like Clemson completely falling apart. Syracuse really rose to the occasion.
Right.
But the loss that probably surprised me the most was number 8 Washington State, who turned the ball over 7 times.
You were all ready to crown Mike Leach talking about his offense.
In a 37-3 loss to Cal. And
listen, that's a Pac-12 opponent.
It is.
These guys, they play each other, and Cal is no slouch as far as football programs go. I agree. Again, it's a case where the raw talent on paper probably didn't match up, but anytime you play a team in your same division...
And you give the ball away 7 times.
7 turnovers, they wouldn't have won a team against a JV high school team.
Exactly, yeah, it was bad. And Mike Leach didn't mince words, and he stated the obvious after the game, saying, "We were pathetic."
Yeah.
I have to concur.
Hit the nail on the head.
And so Washington State's hopes of making an appearance in the college football playoff is dead.
Rest in peace.
But it's far from over for Clemson. A few things have to happen for Clemson to make it back to the top of the rankings. Some teams have to lose, things have to happen, but they could certainly still win the ACC and make a strong case.
Be keeping a close eye on that one over the next couple weeks, Jancy.
Yes, definitely keep an eye on the college football landscape as the official playoff rankings come out on Halloween. And if the upset trend will continue.
We shall see. I hope so.
It's interesting right now. It's a lot of fun. And speaking of hopes being in question, the big news out of the NFL this week was Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers going out with a spectacularly shattered collarbone. Did you see that x-ray?
That was not fun. It was not a good-looking x-ray.
It looked like some glass that you just hit with a hammer.
It looked like somebody had shot a BB gun into his collarbone and just a tiny million little pieces.
And it's his, it's his left shoulder. It's his non-throwing side, but that doesn't really matter.
No, not with an injury like that because you use your entire body as a quarterback.
Yeah.
So it would
And
be more
getting hit
painful for
also.
him. Right, exactly. If it were his right collarbone, but it's still part of the throwing motion and not something that will easily be recovered from.
Yeah, and he is about to undergo surgery to repair it, and the Packers haven't stated if he's out for the rest of the season, but it doesn't look good. And this undoubtedly changes the NFC North picture. Who do you think is celebrating most with the news of Rodgers out?
I think it's fairly wide open right now. These teams aren't that separated in terms of talent. Their records aren't particularly far apart. It's really, at this point, any team's division to win.
I have my eye on the Vikings.
I think the Vikings have the best shot because of the defense. I mean, Case Keenum's been playing pretty well. Sam Bradford probably going to get healthy here soon. And then you even have, looking ahead to the next couple of years, you've got Teddy Bridgewater that could potentially come back from injury. So the Vikings are going to be right in it for a long time. But for this year, the Lions have a chance too. Matt Stafford obviously just signed that big contract. They kind of laid a big egg last week. But they're always in a game offensively.
Yeah.
And then even the Bears, with rookie Mitch Trubisky under center, have looked decent. They had their defense help them out a little bit this past week in terms of scoring. Yeah. But say he catches fire, they could very well come back and win this division. But we'll see.
That's what I love about the NFL, is that seriously, any team can win on any given Sunday.
Well, we found that out.
Case
didn't
in
we?
point, the Broncos and the
Jancy,
Giants.
on
That was my
this
fault.
podcast,
I take that.
on
I take full responsibility.
This very podcast.
I thought, no way. They're 0-5. Eli Manning doesn't have a receiver to throw to. But I should have, and it was at home at Mile High.
Sunday night football,
I know.
Everyone's amped. The crowd is raucous.
But I should have known, never underestimate those unknown receivers coming in. Taking people off of waivers.
Right.
You don't
They're
know who
unknown.
they are. And they're
you
hungry.
haven't scouted them.
Exactly.
They're hungry. That's absolutely right. And again, it's a case where not necessarily because the Broncos are good, but because everyone was so down on the Giants, it was another point of pride where they played their best game. They came out and they said, you know what, enough is enough. We're 0-5. Everyone's trying to bury us.
Embarrassing. Yeah.
We need to come out and play a solid game, and that's exactly what they did. They thoroughly dismantled us offensively, defensively, special teams, the whole nine. Brandon McManus missing field goals left and right, getting blocked.
Not scoring on the 1 yard line. I mean,
well, we've had red zone problems all year long. It's very frustrating. I'm almost, Jancy, ready to pull the plug on Trevor Siemian.
Oh, really?
I am not a fan.
You're about there, huh?
It's.
Well, he went out for a minute.
He's mediocre.
He was hurt, and
for
I thought
2
he went
seconds
out.
at the end of the first half. Brock Osweiler came in through 2 passes, and then Siemian started the second half.
No, I'm okay.
I don't necessarily think Brock Osweiler is the answer. I don't think that Paxton Lynch is the answer. To be quite honest with you, I'm just salty.
Yeah,
I can
tell. I can tell. Oh my gosh.
Very doom and gloom.
But we will see, and we know. I should have known. Eli is the comeback king. That's his thing.
Well, he's still, and people get down on him too, because he's getting older and because he's a very streaky quarterback.
Yes.
But he's won 2 Super Bowls. He's beaten Tom Brady twice in the Super Bowl. He is, when he's at his best, an elite quarterback in the NFL.
Yes.
So it's not surprising to me that he performed the way he did. It was just a little surprising that it was against my team, and I was very sad.
I know. So we'll see how things continue to play out, and we'll see if, talking about elite quarterbacks, if the Packers can overcome the absence of their Super Bowl MVP.
We shall see.
Aaron Rodgers.
We'll trade him Siemian.
I know. And this is the time of year where it starts snowing in places, so weather becomes a factor.
I love snow
and there are
games.
injuries, and now there are bye games going on. So, sometimes people come back from their bye weeks refreshed. And it's a really interesting time.
Yes, it is.
So let's switch gears here for a minute. We just passed the midway point of October, which means the World Series is nearly upon us. Yeah,
Love playoff baseball.
Me
It's so
too.
intense.
Me
Every
too.
pitch, the lives.
Yes.
People are just hanging on
I
every
know.
single one.
I love it.
Yeah.
My little brother actually, like I've said, he's, a great quarterback, a little stud, but he likes baseball more because he says it requires more skill. And it's harder.
It's difficult to argue with that, not to mention the fact that it's safer with
Yeah.
the things that have come out about football and the brain injuries and the effect that it has on people. Though a baseball to the head isn't going to do you any favors either.
Yeah, but there's just a lot more that's behind the scenes of baseball that not the casual spectator understands. And so it really is interesting if you understand the game. Have you been catching the NLCS and ALCS on AFN Sports this week?
I absolutely have. I've been following the playoffs pretty closely. There's some great series going on right now.
Yes. So I was watching Game 3 of the ALCS last night when the New York Yankees, who were down 2-0 in the series, shocked the Houston Astros 8-1. CC Sabathia pitched 6 shutout innings. Todd Frazier, who looks really old to me.
Yeah.
Really old. Started off with a 3-run home run in the second inning, and Aaron Judge looked like his old self with a 3-run hit in the fourth and some spectacular catches. If nothing else, it showed us that this wouldn't be a one-sided series. And then Game 4 just wrapped up.
Yes, it did. And the Yankees have now tied the series up. It's 2 apiece. They won both of their games at home like you're supposed to do in the playoffs. They were down 4-0 in this game, came back, went up 6-4 in the bottom of the 8th inning. And guess who was right in the middle of it, Jancy?
Who?
Aaron Judge.
Yep,
It's
yep,
your boy.
It's your boy. Big players play big in big games.
That's absolutely right. And I don't know, you said that they shocked the Astros in Game 3. I don't know.
I don't think they saw 8-1 coming.
Well, 8-1 is a pretty good drubbing, for sure. So I guess in that sense it was
Yeah.
a little shocking because the Astros are one of the best offensive teams in the league, if not the best, all year long. So the fact that they were held to one run is a little bit surprising, I grant you. But it's going to be really interesting now because these Yankees are too young to realize that they shouldn't be doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
So nobody's going to tell them, hey, what do you do? The Astros are the ones that should win. So I would be very interested to see the Yankees get into the World Series.
Okay. We'll talk about that in a minute, what I think on that. And then in the National League Championship Series, the LA Dodgers lead the Cubs 2-0. They actually just, started playing game 3 right now, but we're not quite there yet. And Chicago's offense just can't figure out pitcher Yu Darvish. It's kind of interesting to watch.
I don't think anyone can figure out Yu Darvish. His pitches are off the wall, man. I mean, we talked about it earlier this year, and the variety of pitches that he throws and the motion that his pitches have on them is just insane. And he's a product right here in Japan.
Yep.
Very proud of him. They are here.
They know him here. And of course, we know the Dodgers have been the World Series favorite all season long. So we will see if they can hold on to punch their ticket to the big show.
I hope not. I hate the Dodgers.
Really?
The entire Dodgers team collectively on my punk list. Wow. It's the return, Jancy. Return of the punk list. I'm calling it. Look, listen, everyone likes the punk list.
They agree, okay.
All right.
Okay, well, punks still win championships, so we'll see.
That's very true. That's a solid point.
Make sure you keep an eye on myafn.net to find out when all of the games will be airing and re-airing, as the schedules are somewhat fluid based on how many games each series go. Sometimes a game will be scheduled, but if it doesn't have to go to a game 6, maybe they'll play one of these NBA games.
It's the dreaded TBD.
Yes, that's the
determined.
whole schedule right now. So that's why I keep saying keep up to date on it. I'm personally hoping to see a Dodgers-Astros World Series. My husband's great-grandma, his granny, was from Houston, and she would watch every single Astros game in between her Spanish soap operas.
Nice.
Yes, so I'm hoping, she'll give him a little lift from above. She's not with us anymore, but when I think of the Astros,
she's watching.
I think of
She's
Granny.
definitely watching.
Yeah, and finally, basketball is back.
Hey, they like that too.
They do. They're a happy crowd today.
Very jovial today.
Yes,
I appreciate that.
The spirit is uplifting here today.
Yeah, the Halloween spirit.
That's right. It's the opening week of the NBA season, and although it's a new season, the question everyone asks is still, who can beat the Warriors?
Nobody.
Everyone and their dog is saying that the Warriors will run away with the crown again this season, and it will most likely be over James and the Cavaliers. But the fact is, there have been some huge trades and acquisitions this offseason, and some new super teams have been formed. Do you think we might be surprised this season?
I can't wait for this season because there is so much unknown with these, what's going on in Oklahoma City and what's going on down in Houston. I think that potentially, on paper, one of these teams could gel well enough and begin playing well enough to make the playoffs and give the Warriors a run for their money. I don't see anyone challenging the Cavs in the East. Maybe Kyrie and the Celtics. Maybe. But I think they've got a pretty clear path to
now with
the
Wade,
NBA Finals.
Wade and James reunited.
Yeah, they got a lot of pieces there. Even though they lost Irving, they put on a lot of pieces, and I think now they're kind of free of is LeBron going to take over? Is Kyrie going to take the last shot? Like, how's it going to be? Now there's just it's LeBron and a bunch of supporting cast, and that's exactly kind of what they need.
And we've shown Wade, he has deferred to James in the past, and they have a good dynamic.
Well, Wade is like 50 years old at this point.
But they have their rhythm because they did Wade what they were playing in Miami at the
when
top
they were
of
both
Wade's
at their
career.
peak,
And they have that figured out, so I don't think there'll be much more drama coming out of there. The power rankings are no shock. Rounding out the top spots are the Warriors, Cavaliers, Rockets, Thunder, Spurs, and Celtics. So the usual suspects.
Can never count those Spurs out, man.
No.
I don't know what it is about Greg Popovich, what they're putting in the water down there in San Antonio, but that is a good, solid, fundamental basketball team year in and year out.
I know. My Jazz don't like that, but it's true. This is kind of what we talked about last year, that it's difficult for small market teams to break into the upper echelon of the bigger market super teams. But do you think it's going to pan out this way that it's been predicted? Who do you see maybe jumping into that top? I know the Nuggets. The Nuggets are looking pretty good.
The Nuggets are always looking good offensively. We just can't play any defense. It's been that way for 15 years. Since I started watching them in 2003, that's how it's been with the Nuggets.
Yeah.
But they will be fun to watch this year. I don't think they have a whisper of a prayer to actually crack that upper echelon. I think in the West, you're looking at Houston, Oklahoma City, and Golden State, and San Antonio. In the East, the Cavaliers, the Celtics, maybe the Hawks, but the Hawks have lost some pieces. There's a couple of teams that could jump up, and there's a lot more opportunity out there,
And
honestly.
I'm surprised the Washington Wizards were at number 7. When I think of the Wizards, I think of bottom dwellers.
Well, they've come up in recent years. They got John Wall out there. Paul Pierce finished his career in Washington. They got Nene playing center for him. There's some pieces in place there, but I still don't think that they're going to do anything to challenge.
Yeah, probably not. But as we know, the NBA season is a bit of a marathon, and AFN will keep bringing you all the action. Like I keep saying, just make sure to keep checking myafn.net for your up-to-date schedules. We have a lot of TBDs right now because of the changing landscape, but AFN always does a good job of picking the best.
We try.
But that's going to have to do it for us this week. Make sure you hit subscribe and tune in next week, as the sports world is definitely in high gear right now. Thanks for joining us in the AFN Sports Arena. I'm Jancy Ellis, and he's
Air Force Staff Sergeant Tori Cusimano. Brains.
Ooh. Have a great weekend. And don't forget, you have to look good to play good.